this safe in about 10 minutes.
You ready, Nancy?
Yes.
Okay. Well, it is 7:01 and time to begin our city council meeting. We welcome everyone here. If there's folks here to speak during our public hearings or at our open comment period, there are forms out on the podium out there. If you'd fill those out and get them to Wendy, we would appreciate that. Begin tonight with our opening ceremony and turn the time over to Councilmember Roper.
If you'll all rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our Heavenly Father, we are so grateful for this opportunity. We have to gather this evening in a public meeting on behalf of the residents of Clearfield City. We are so thankful for the ability to be able to work together and to be able to work towards bettering our community. We ask Thee that Thou wilt be with us and bless those in our community, that they will want to take an active part in pushing forward and to helping us to create a good place to live. We ask Thee to bless our police and fire as they work so hard to keep us safe, and that will bless their families as well, that they may all return home in safety and be together. We thank Thee for this great country and for our opportunities to act in the behalf of the people and to represent them. We pray that Thou will be with us, that we can make sound and wise decisions as we counsel together. And we say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Tim. Council, we have minutes to approve tonight from the August 14th work session, August 28th policy and work sessions, September 4th work session, and the September 11th policy and work sessions. You had a chance to review those minutes? Are there additions or corrections? If not, I'd entertain a motion on the minutes.
Your Honor, I move to approve the minutes as written.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the minutes stand. That brings us to our open comment period this evening. I only have one form for someone here to speak tonight. That's David Tomczak. And I have now a couple others. So, David, we'll start with you.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. First, I want to start off that for the first time in Clearfield, I actually had to call 911 for dispatch to come to my house for the first time in 20 some odd years. Loved the response time. In less than 5 minutes, there was 4 units, and they caught the person, broke into the house. So kudos for that. However, there was a couple concerns I have, and I brought them attention to the mayor, and I just want them to let them know on record too, because I got some more information today. There was 2 officers. I'm going to leave their names and badge numbers out for purposes for privacy, but I will be more than happy to come forward with those at a later time if needed. The first one, he didn't take any photos of the damage of the house, what was in sums about almost $1,000 at the end of the day. Then also the officer didn't see if I needed medical treatment when I actually had to go to the hospital and get treatment for it. I'm now currently going for treatment. I think that could have been resolved to have the officer saying, hey, do you need to get medical treatment because you just had a person break into your house and you got injured? And the officer failed to do that. In addition, I found out the officer didn't even do a report, scratch that. He didn't charge the person because he knew him. And because he didn't know him, he just basically drove him to his house and just said, yeah, no harm, no foul, essentially, and we're not going to press any charges. Found that out the following day when I went into the city hall to submit my evidence with the photographs of the damage of the house and so forth, where again, talked to another police officer and when I admit the name and the badge number, I will provide them if needed, where she grilled me on 3rd degrees on why I wanted to press charges on the person who broke in my house. And I'm like, seriously, I don't think as a victim I should have to justify on why I want to seek charges. And in addition, then it came forward that, and they gave me this nice little document the police department produces every day, and the time with the case number they gave me does not match the dock ticket that they provided. They're saying with the case number pretty much ending in 715, the call came in at 9:15 p.m. When if you look at 911 dispatch records, you can clearly see it came in at 22:40 or 10:40 at night, roughly. And then more so that the police department classified it as a citizen assist versus what they should have called it what it is, a break-in. Why would they have to classify it as one thing and have a complete 180? And so I just want to bring that to the attention to the council as well as the mayor again. I did do a grievance report with the police department, and I have yet heard any response back from the police department, and it's been almost about a week now. But keep in mind, there was 2 weekends plus a holiday. So just keep that in mind. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Don Wood. I have 2 forms. I have a yellow form and then a public hearing form for you later. So we'll go with the yellow form first.
All right, thanks, Mayor and Council. It's an honor for me to be able to be here this evening. I have to tell you, I wax a little bit nostalgic as I was getting dressed to come up, and I almost approved the minutes with you. So, so you guys are awesome, and some great things happening in the city with the acquisition of the mobile home park and the development across the street, and some more development coming up here, and you're all to be commended for the great work that you're doing, and as citizens, we're appreciative of that. This evening, I just wanted to share with you something that's important to me and to many of the residents of our neighborhood. It seems that we're having a rather serious deterioration in our neighborhood. Some of the elderly people are going to assisted living centers. Others are passing away and going to the other side to a better neighborhood. And so it seems like we're having some deterioration in our neighborhood. I've expressed that before. I'm sure code enforcement has been through there and addressed that to the extent that they could. But again, those issues, they arise again. So this evening, what I wanted to do, I just brought some pictures that I took this afternoon. I took these for, you know, I'm not tattling on people. There's no names, there's no house numbers, there's no anything here. I just wanted to share these photos with you so you could get a better understanding of what our concerns are. I speak on behalf of many of the neighbors in our neighborhood as I've had an opportunity to interface and interact with them. So if I could just this evening, then I'm going to retain a copy of this so I can reference the photos that you're looking at, so they make a little bit of sense to you.
Thank you.
So as you all know, Title V in the city code speaks to nuisances and things of that nature as it relates to our community. If you look at this first picture right here, it's a picture of a vehicle that has clutter and debris in the back of it. But if you'll look just beyond that, you'll see that there's a recreational vehicle there. That recreational vehicle has doors missing, windows that are damaged, and things of that nature. It's sat there for years. It's unregistered. Another side note, this particular property, and I got this secondhand, so I can't swear to the truthfulness of it, but my understanding is that this residence doesn't have a water account, that they're actively paying, that the water's been shut off, and that the people are camping out in the backyard. I got that from the neighbor who lives behind them, so I don't know if that's correct or accurate or not. Another picture you see here of 2 little Volkswagen Beetles. One is the infamous Lucy that crawled into a tree one night unbeknownst to anybody. And next to that, you'll see another Volkswagen Beetle there that is sitting there and is likewise in a dismantled condition. And so you have those 2 vehicles that are there. If you look at this vehicle here, or excuse me, at this picture right there, you'll see that there's trash and debris in front of the home. You'll see that there's mattresses and boxes and other clutter there. Up the street, 2 more dismantled vehicles, these 2 pickup trucks that are sitting there. They're in violation of the city code. They're not They're not covered in a proper manner. I don't know if they have restoration permits in place, but they sit outside the lot. You'll see other homes where there's debris, weeds, and tree limbs and things of that nature just stacked in the yards. Moving on, you'll see that there's sidewalks that are impassable due to apple trees that are overhanging the pedestrian walkway. They cleaned it up a little bit. There was so many apples and the weeds were overgrowing the sidewalk, you couldn't walk past there. The trees are being held up by a crutch, literally a walking crutch. You'll see this photo right here. That home has tires and that are stacked out to the side of the home that are visible from the street. Those tires are a health and a safety issue in that as they accumulate water and that they breed mosquitoes. And they're not very attractive to say the least. If you look at this home right here in our subdivision, that home had the shingles removed from it probably over a year ago. And there are no shingles on the roof of that home. There's the black tarp, that's all that's there. And it's sat in that condition now for well over a year. And there's another picture that demonstrates that as well. So I just share those with you. I don't know if code enforcement still falls underneath the police department. I read where there was a change where it's handled administratively and stuff like that or something. I'm not familiar with that at this point. But I share that with you from two perspectives. One, it diminishes the character of our neighborhood. It diminishes the marketability of our properties, and Mayor would know how important that is in terms of being able to sell your home and get a fair price for it as well. The second thing is that you know, we're helping and we're assisting developers with projects. We're aiding them financially. We're discounting land so that they can revitalize and redevelop our city. We're discounting it hundreds of thousands of dollars, which is a wonderful thing, and I am wholly supportive of that because it elevates and lifts our community. But the residential aspect of our community is as important as is the business sector, our industrial sector, and every facet of our community. And so I hope that you'll give some consideration to not just our neighborhood, which is important to me, but to code enforcement in general. I don't know what the resources are. I don't know if we have one officer now, if we have two officers. I don't know. But I think it's something that needs to be prioritized. I will tell you this, people will act and respond when they're called to do so. You don't have one of the pictures that I took this afternoon with me was of a recreational travel trailer that had sat out on the street for literally, I'll bet it's been there for 2 months. The ordinance says it can only be on the street for 24 hours. Well, when it was discovered, I'm assuming this is what happened because a neighbor saw me taking the pictures to bring to this evening's meeting. When I returned later this afternoon, it was off the street, it was parked in the driveway. So people they're sensitive to being held accountable for what they know they should be doing. So I appreciate your time this evening again. I have a deep appreciation for all of you and for what you do. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. I will tell you that we actually discussed that during our staff meeting this morning, and the amount of work that they have, but the amount of work that can still be done. So we are on that one. That is all of the forms that I had for our open comment period. Is there anybody else that was here to address the council? Okay, then we will move forward. We have, oh, excuse me. We need to adjourn as the city council. I should have circled each one of those tonight because we're going to play hopscotch here. We need a motion to adjourn as the city council and reconvene as the Community Development Renewal Agency, or CDRA board.
Your Honor, go ahead.
No,
We got a so moved down here from Carice.
I move to adjourn as the city council and re-adjourn as the CDRA.
second.
We can now have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, Kent, it's all yours.
Okay, welcome to CDRA meeting. We're going to be jumping back and forth, so if you get confused, It's kind of confusing to us too, but, bear with us. And we may get tired all this jumping back and forth. The first item is consider approval of minutes from the August 28th and policy session and work session. Have you had a chance to look at those?
Chairman Bush, I would move to approve the minutes from the August 28th, 2018 policy session and the August 28th, 2018 work session as written.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Our next item is a public hearing to receive public comment on the draft project area plan and budget for the Lifetime Products Community Reinvestment Area, CRA. Is someone going to explain this, Summer?
Board members, I just want to turn the time over to Jason Birmingham, who will do the presentation here, but I also want to recognize that Brian Siegel is here from Lifetime. So we've got two experts here if you have any questions, but I'll let Jason run through the presentation before the public hearing.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the Board of Trustees of the Community Development and Renewal Agency. It was introduced, but I'll do it one more time just for public's benefit. Jason Birmingham with Lewis Young, Robertson and Birmingham. We're a financial advisory firm and help in community and economic and redevelopment projects. And we've worked with the city for a number of years. And we're here tonight to do a quick presentation. We had an opportunity to be with you at a work session a week ago, and we went into a little more depth than I planned to this evening, but I wanted to provide a little bit of an excerpt of that presentation that we did last Tuesday. So it will be a refresher for the members of the board, but for the public, hopefully it will focus on the high points of what this project is and what we're asking for the CDRA to consider, and as well as at some point, as the chairman mentioned, reconvening, getting back into a city council and making some actions or considering some actions there as well. I wanted to also mention again Brian Slagle. Brian's the Chief Financial Officer for Lifetime Products. We've been working with Brian for several months in working towards this new project that they're proposing to do at the Freeport Center. We're excited about it. It's an expansion and really focusing on consolidation of some of their distribution capabilities on the site that would put them as not only the largest employer in Clearfield now, but in the future to continue to be one of the largest employers in all of Davis County. So we appreciate their partnership and their willingness to be here this evening to answer any questions that might come up. Just wanted to, for the benefit of the public, reiterate that the Community Development Renewal Agency is a separate legal entity that has the opportunity and ability to create project areas for the benefit of the community. And these are directed under or governed under 17C, which is a Limited Purpose Local Government Entities Act, and now referred to as the Community Reinvestment Agencies Act. And under that, we have the opportunity to create certain project areas now constituted as CRAs. Prior to this legislative change, there were other vehicles in which the CDRA could consider. Now they've kind of evolved into one traditional project area, which are CRAs. And that's what we're going to primarily talk about tonight. The purpose of this is to take incremental benefits that are established or developed by the project itself that enhance the overall tax base, and then a portion of those taxes are used to implement a plan that has, by design, to increase the tax base, include new jobs, and investment within the area. And this is more of a generic overview, but it could be used for existing businesses, one of which we have within this project area, which is Lifetime Products. It can also be used for new development that may not exist within the city already that is looking to come to the city. Infrastructure improvements are often funded with these types of mechanisms, as are affordable housing components, which Clearfield City and through your redevelopment agency has done a remarkable job actually in terms of funding those types of projects. And then there are other types of things that do fit within CRAs. We're going to talk a little more specifically about Lifetime and what the purpose is for that design. There is a process, and for the benefit of the public, there has been a plan, a draft plan, and a draft budget that has been provided as part of the notice process that is available for public inspection. And the plan is fairly simple. It outlines what we're intending to do with this development, as does the budget, and the tool that's used is tax increment. Tonight, once you hold your public hearing, the redevelopment or the CDRA has the opportunity to consider a couple of resolutions. One resolution would consider adopting the plan as proposed as the official plan, and two, to consider another resolution that would adopt the budget as constituted as the budget that we would be proceeding with. And so that's kind of where we're at tonight. That budget and plan have been available to the public. I'm not sure if we've got a lot of comments or feedback on that per se, but we've certainly had a lot of discussion with staff and with others relative to this project. If the plan and budget were to be adopted, the next steps are going to the other taxing entities through an interlocal agreement process. And we have had some preliminary dialogue with most of them, including the county and the school district, which are two of the largest participants in this project, and both have been very favorable and encouraging that this is a good project, one which they like to see coming to them. I'm going to tell just a little bit about Lifetime Products, but as Brian is here, if you can correct me if there's some things that aren't exactly accurate. But one of the things that really I think was of interest to us on this project was the fact that Lifetime wants to expand their operations, and that they have other areas where they could do that outside of Davis County, outside of Clearfield City. And so when they initially approached us, they told us how significant their operation was in Clearfield and in Davis County, and how important it was to keep their legacy here, but that the cost of the underlying land was a real barrier for allowing that expansion to occur. And so they'd done a lot of due diligence. They had investigated purchasing property, and then they'd also looked at other areas outside of the state as well as inside of the state, and concluded that this site was still the most ideal site for their operations. And but that there was a gap, a financial gap. And the gap that we're proposing to fund with this CRA would not cover the whole gap of what they're ultimately short, but it goes a long ways in showing the support of the local governments and those community partners. And so as we've discussed this with the CEO and their board and various members of their executive staff, they've felt that this level of participation and commitment, although it doesn't overcome all of the financial challenges, helps them feel like they can make this commitment to this area. And so it's a fairly significant expansion. We're talking about $30+ million of new assessed value. If you quantify that in terms of true capital costs, they might be expending up to $50 or $60 million over the life of this project. It would increase the number of jobs. We anticipate there'd be an additional maybe 150 jobs that would come as part of this specific project, but also related to the backfill that would occur within some of the other buildings that they also occupy at the Freeport Center. I will also say this is unique. This is one of the first times I've seen the Freeport Center be willing to actually sell land to a development or a company in which they could have the long-term longevity of building a facility like this. That's unique. They almost always ground lease, and don't do this. And so we could tell from that commitment that it was also that Lifetime is a very significant partner to them, and that it was important for them to see this move forward. So we're excited about that. There are some other sites. I'm not going to focus on that, but as they looked and evaluated those other sites, there was a cost differential that was significant. They asked us to consider this participation as a way to minimize that difference. And so what I'm going to just quickly go over now is the site. It's about 37 acres. You may not be able to see that real well, but it's bordered on Highway 193 there, and it's a good piece of property. It would be great for their organization and for the operations that they have. It is within a current project area, so it's within RDA number 6, and we'll talk about that a little later in the evening, but we're going to need to carve it out of RDA number 6 and put it into its own project area. We talked about this. It's up to about 650,000 square feet of building. There's a significant amount of personal property, equipment, large machinery, et cetera, for their distribution. And we estimate that the total value, once it's completed, is $35 million that would go on the tax rolls. It currently has a base year value of $5 million. So the tool that we're contemplating here is tax increment. So $5 million is the base level, $35 million would be the ultimate building value, and the difference between those two is what is referred to as the incremental assessed value, and that's how the property tax is then computed, and then a portion of that would be part of this budget. This next slide shows what we're requesting in terms of the plan and the budget. We're requesting 75% participation from each of the taxing entities on the incremental portion, which again was the $30 million, not the $5 million. The $5 million would continue to flow through to all of the taxing entities. It would just be on that portion that's above the $5 million. And that would be for a 15-year period. Excuse me. I think it's important, just for the benefit of the public, that it's not the result of a tax increase. We're not creating a new area and then increasing a tax rate. It's only by virtue of the development excuse me, that Lifetime Products is actually putting in there. So if they don't develop anything, they don't build anything, there's no incremental taxes of which to share. So it really puts the burden on the development, on the Lifetime Products company to develop it in order to earn any of these property tax incentives.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Does that increase start when the building is all the way done, or will it start, I mean, if they've got part of the building done next year, does that start that, or does the building have to be all the way complete?
No, that's a great question. The way the plan and the budget is articulated right now is that it's at the discretion of the RDA board to trigger when that triggers. It makes sense to us for it to not be triggered too long into the future. So one of the parameters that is put in the plan, that in no event would it be triggered later than a certain date. And I think that's 2021. I don't have that right in front of me. It's either 2020 or 2021. But it could be triggered, to your point, as soon as construction is completed. But the idea is to get it on the tax rolls, and then once it's on the tax rolls, then trigger the first year of the 15 years. But what we've committed to the other taxing entities, that we wouldn't allow that to be indefinite. You know, we would try to do that within the first 2 or 3 years. And that's the commitment that, you know, the company would be making to do that. Yeah. So that's a great question. We get that asked a lot by the other taxing entities. I know when the mayor, JJ and I, Summer met with even the school district and the county, that was one of their primary concerns was, well, you know, is this indefinite? When will you trigger this? You know, some of these have come to us and it seems like they haven't triggered for 10 years. We don't want a situation like that. And so it kind of puts some onus on the company to get in out of the ground and get going and getting on the tax rolls, but I think it is a fair way to approach it with the taxing entities. So I think that's a great question, and it does put some onus on the company to perform. The tax increment slide's very difficult to read, so you'll have that on your monitors probably, but it really is just trying to show that a portion of the incremental revenues will come to the RDA for purposes of incentivizing the project. A portion of it remains as base year taxes, so it just flows through to all the entities just as it always would. And a portion of it actually is above and beyond. It's that 25%. So for some taxing entities here where the reality of without this project, they would only receive that blue line and not even get the green and eventually the red line. This is quite an investment for them. They're getting, in some cases, 4 or 5 times the taxes that they would be receiving otherwise. And so they've been encouraged because of that. They felt like this land, basically because of the ownership and how it's been managed, that the likelihood of it developing in the next 10 or 15 years without this type of project is very unlikely. So I think that's a motivator here as well. Here's are some dollars that just go along with the graphs, but you know, the first element is what would be the base year components. That's what would be in the annual column, and then we have over the 15-year period. And you can see it's a little bit, but it's not a lot. The next table shows, well, what is the 25% that's over and above the base year? What does that mean to them? Well, here's the annual totals as well as the total over the 15 years. And then this last table shows what would actually be spent within the project area and would be guided by your plan and your budget, but ultimately by authorization of this board. And there's a breakdown of how the funds would be used. Some of it would go towards administrative costs. 5% is what the budget currently considers. There's also a statutory requirement that 10% of it is set aside for housing. That does not, however, have to be used within the project area. It could be used, but it could also be used citywide. So it has broader application, and it doesn't necessarily just have to be used for building housing. It could also be used for public infrastructure or other amenities that go along with housing. So you could think of roadways or, you know, some of those things that would support that. Obviously, the largest item is really what we're doing to incentivize the company and really help to buy down the land cost, to make that land cost more manageable compared to some of their other options. The next steps, as I mentioned, are interlocal agreements and then going through the noticing process. So this is really this would be the culmination, I guess, of the plan and the budget and would officially create a project area. But it doesn't necessarily put the financing mechanism in place until we get the interlocal agreements. So the last thing I think I'll just talk about before we go into the public hearing, because it is related, is the RDA number 6. As I mentioned before, this same parcel is within RDA number 6. And so in order to effectively allow this to be put in the new CRA, we need you to consider amending your current plan and taking it out of RDA number 6. There is a little bit of an impact. We note here that right now that base year value is very low, like way below the $5 million, and so it's raised up to $5 million. And so there's about $40,000 that's created annually that goes to the RDA for purposes of project area number 6. but it was really intended to be used to promote that area. And so we don't view it as though the 41,000 is lost. We just look at, we're really taking the 41,000 and transferring into the CRA and using that for the purposes of this. But we thought that that ought to be mentioned so that you recognize what that impact is on RDA number 6. One of the provisions, and I'll just mention to it in both the ordinance and the resolution relative to the amendment of RDA number 6, is we have crafted language that I think was mentioned by this board last time of the contingency of if we don't get the interlocal agreements on lifetime, we don't want to take that land out of RDA number 6. So it is contingent. The resolution and the ordinance contemplates that if the interlocal agreements are not approved on the CRA for lifetime, then it does stay in and doesn't come out. So I think with that, that was what I intended to provide, but I'm here to, again, answer any questions. And certainly if the public has anything that I could help address as well, I'm here, as well as Brian.
Thank you for that explanation. With that, I'll open the public hearing. You want to bang that gavel for me? I have one public hearing comment form from Don Wood. Would you like to come up and talk?
Mr. Chairman, thank you for the opportunity to address you. This evening, I'd like to speak in support of the Lifetime Project area for many reasons. One of those reasons is the fact that several years ago, we worked closely with the Utah Department of Transportation for the extension of SR 193. One of our commitments to them at that time was that if we could secure that $50 million to be able to extend that road, that there was a major opportunity for us to be able to develop that area, continue to develop that area on both our side of the street in Clearfield, the east side of 1000 West, and on the west side of 1000 West, which is Syracuse. And we've seen some of that development occur on the west side of 1000 West there in Syracuse, and they've taken advantage of that major artery there that's made that development possible. However, we've been a little bit stagnant on this side of 1000 West, and this is a tremendous opportunity for us to be able to be involved and fulfill that commitment that we made to UDOT at the time in which we were working with them to secure that $50 million. The other thing as well is as you know, residential property tax that come to the city, for every dollar we get, it costs us about $1.10, $1.20 to service that resident. So we're going backwards about 20%. And they're only taxed at 55% of their value, whereas commercial and industrial are taxed at 100% of their value, and that which is substantial. I can speak to that personally. And then that's not just in real property tax, but that's also in personal property tax, which is all of their tooling, equipment, office furnishings, and everything of that nature. So it's a substantial contribution that Lifetime and other industrial manufacturers in the Freeport Center make to the tax base of our community. Granted, the school district for 15 years is only going to get 25% of what they normally would, but 25% of something is better than 0% or 100% of nothing. Okay, so it's very beneficial to the school children in our community and in the county and in the district that these types of products or these types of projects are sought after and are developed and approved. Secondly, this company, Lifetime Products, their contribution to our city extends far beyond tax increment or tax dollars. I've been a firsthand witness to Barry Maurer and Kathy Maurer and Rich Hendrickson, and that on 2 separate occasions where they literally marshaled hundreds of their employees on a Saturday when they could normally be home with their families or golfing or fishing or whatever it might be, and saw them over at Centennial Park and doing extensive redevelopment in that park. I've watched them down here at Steed Park and Steed Pond after the acquisition of the pond. And I watched Lifetime Products again marshal literally hundreds of their employees, some on Friday, probably on the payroll, and then others on Saturday to come down there and refinish ball diamonds, repaint Boweries, lay hundreds and hundreds of feet of sod, and to the benefit of our community. And frankly, to find companies that look beyond the bottom line and look to what they can do in terms of enhancing the community in which they live, in which they work, it's rare. Yet we have one. And I'm grateful for Brian's representation of Lifetime here this evening. We have one. And as been stated earlier, they have other opportunities. I don't know if they still do. They had overseas operations and other cities who vie for these things. And this is their home, and we need to be supportive of them and keep them home. So I'd encourage you in your capacity as CDRA members and as council members to give serious consideration to approval of this project area. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. Is there any other citizens who would like to speak at this public hearing?
Chairman Bush, seeing no additional requests to comment, I would move to close the public hearing.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to close the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, our next item is to consider approval of Resolution 2018-R-04, adopting an official plan for the Lifetime Products Community Reinvestment Project area. Do we need any more discussion on this?
You know, Director, I'd just like to echo what Mayor Wood said, that I'm personally very appreciative of the commitment that Lifetime has to Clearfield City, and they have for a long time. So appreciative that their willingness to work with us. It's not only a benefit to Clearfield, but it's a benefit to Davis County and the entire state. And so
Right, it is.
That's commendable that someone has different options and they have such a loyalty to the community that they do these kinds of things. So,
Amen.
so
Yes.
I own a lot of Lifetime products.
If there's no other discussion, I'd entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve Resolution 2018-R-04, adopting an official plan for the Lifetime Products Community Reinvestment Project area, and authorize your signature to any necessary documents.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. This is a roll call vote, right?
Correct.
Okay. Director Peterson?
Aye.
Director Thompson?
Aye.
Director Shepard?
Aye.
Director Roper?
Aye.
Director Phipps?
Aye.
It's unanimous. Thank you. Next item is to consider approval of Resolution 2018-R-05, adopting the project area budget for the Lifetime Community Reinvestment Project area. Any questions on the budget or tax increment or anything that's been explained?
Chairman Bush, I would move to approve Resolution 2018-R-05, adopting the project area budget for the Lifetime Community Reinvestment Project Area, CRA, and would authorize your signature to any necessary documents.
Second.
Go ahead.
Motion in 2 seconds. Director Phipps?
Aye.
Director Roper?
Aye.
Director Shepard?
Aye.
Director Thompson?
Aye.
Director Peterson?
Aye.
It's unanimous. Thank you. One more item not related to this project is our next item. Consider approval of the purchase agreement for the sale of property located in the vicinity of 17 North Main, 75 North Main, and 52 South Main to DG Construction for the development of Clearfield Junction. Summer, you want to give some background on that one?
Sure. So as the staff report indicated, we entered into a development agreement with DG Construction in May. And as part of that agreement, we discussed a purchase agreement that would come later that would complete the transaction of selling the property that the CDRA owned as part of this future development we are now calling Clearfield Junction. The purchase agreement is contingent upon the developer completing everything that is requested of him as part of the site plan approval. And there were a few things that went to Planning Commission, and it was a fairly lengthy Planning Commission meeting last week as they worked through all of those details. They will continue to work through those details, but once those are completed by the developer, we would recommend executing this this purchase agreement and completing that transaction with DG Construction. Any questions about the development agreement that was attached to the purchase agreement or the purchase agreement itself? Okay.
Any discussion from the directors?
No, I mean, we're talking the purchase agreement, and I had somebody ask why we would sell it for this amount to him, and there's a lot involved with that as to why we would do that. Part of it, again, is really what we've considered surplus property on our end, and so our portion of that property is relatively small. However, there's some incentive for us to do this. Along this entire project, there's no tax increment that's going in on this one, as we just finished talking to about tax increment for Lifetime's project. There's no tax increment involved in this one. However, aside from the housing that they're bringing in, comes about 20,000 square feet of retail development fronting State Street without that tax increment. So helping a developer pull that off and bring business to downtown Clearfield and to help us realize our vision of what downtown Clearfield ought to be. I would wholeheartedly support this one. It just makes sense, and that's how I've explained that to those that have asked me.
Great, yes, it does. If there's no other comments, I'd entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'll move to approve the purchase agreement for the sale of property located at the vicinity of 17 North Main, 75 North Main, and 52 South Main to DG Construction for the development of Clearfield Junction, and authorize your signature to any necessary documents.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, now we need to adjourn CDRA for a while and go back into City Council. So I have a motion to do that.
Chairman Bush, I move to adjourn as the CDRA and reconvene as the City Council.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, back to City Council.
Welcome back. Nice to have you all back at our City Council meeting this evening for one item, so that I can then volley that ball right back to our chairman of the CDRA. Our item on the agenda at this point is to consider approval of ordinance 2018-18, adopting an official plan for the Lifetime Products Community Reinvestment Project area as approved by the Clearfield Community Development Renewal Agency, and directing that notice of the adoption to be given as required by statute. So we are taking action on the action that was just taken. So the CDRA board has approved that plan. Now falls to the City Council to adopt that as well. Council, are there any further questions? There wasn't a whole lot in the CDRA portion, but before I call for a vote, was there any other questions or concerns? Okay, if not, I'll entertain a motion.
Your Honor, I move to approve ordinance 2018-18, adopting official plan for the Lifetime Products Community Reinvestment Project areas approved by the CDRA, and authorize your signature to any necessary documents.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. This also requires a roll call vote. So Councilmember Phipps,
Aye.
Councilmember Peterson,
Aye.
Councilmember Roper,
Aye.
Councilmember Thompson,
Aye.
Councilmember Bush.
Aye.
That is unanimous. I now take the racket and swing that back, asking for a motion to adjourn as the City Council and reconvene as the Community Development Renewal Agency Board.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
It's over to you.
Are you getting tired yet, going back and forth? Okay, we're back in CDRA. As was mentioned before with this project, this property is currently in RDA number 6, and we need to remove that from that RDA 6 in order for this to work. So our item now is to consider approval of resolution 2018-R-06, adopting an amendment to the official plan for the RDA number 6 redevelopment project area. Any questions about this or why we're doing it?
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve resolution 2018-R-06, adopting an amendment to the official plan for the RDA 6 redevelopment project area, and authorize your signature to any necessary documents.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. This is a roll call vote. Director Peterson,
Aye.
Director Phipps,
Aye.
Director Roper,
Aye.
Director Shepherd,
Aye.
Director Thompson.
Aye.
It's unanimous, thank you. Now we need a motion to go back to City Council.
Chairman Bush, I would move to adjourn as the CDRA again and reconvene as the City Council.
Second.
We have a motion to reconvene as City Council. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, back to you.
And we're back. And we're not going anymore. This is, we're done with that. We have, two further items on our agenda. Item number 3 on our City Council agenda is to consider approval of ordinance 2018-19, adopting an amendment to the official plan for this RDA number 6 redevelopment project area, if approved by the Clearfield Community Development Renewal Agency, which it just was, and directing that notice of the adoption be given as required by state statute. Council, any further questions? If not, I would entertain a motion.
Your Honor, I move to approve ordinance 2018-19, adopting an amendment to the official plan for the RDA number 6 redevelopment project area, and would authorize your signature to any necessary documents.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Councilmember Peterson?
Aye.
Councilmember Thompson?
Aye.
Councilmember Bush?
Aye.
Councilmember Roper?
Aye.
Councilmember Phipps?
Aye.
That brings us to our communication items tonight. Not a whole lot going on. Just to note that JJ and Summer and I will be out of town Thursday as we head up to LA and visit with the property owner, see what we can accomplish. So we'll leave everything in Nika's hands for a day. Don't burn the place down.
Don't burn it down. Yeah.
That's really all I had tonight. A lot going on, but nothing that we need to cover here. Councilmember Bush.
Just a few things that I wasn't here last week, so I know you talked about the Utah League meetings. I had an interesting experience because I was on the board to pick the members of the board and the second vice president. So all day Wednesday from before 8 o'clock until after 3 o'clock, we were doing interviews. They did let us out for lunch though, but it was a long day that first day, which it was really interesting. The other 2 days I attended classes and thought there were some really good classes. Last week I was in New Orleans at the water conference, and it was a water conference because it rained every day but Tuesday, and it was in the 90s and the humidity was in the 90s, so even when it wasn't raining, it felt like it was raining. So a lot of good information there and a lot of new products that they always come up with for all kinds of things to do with water. Also went to the Night Out Against Crime and the Fire District Open House. Thanks to all who had anything to do with putting those together. I thought they were really good events. And I think that's all I have.
Thank you. Councilmember Peterson.
Just to echo Councilmember Bush's thanks and appreciation for those two recent city events. It was wonderful to be at those and appreciate the time that goes into that. So our appreciation, thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Thompson.
Just a little quick, Utah Leagues, the cities and towns meeting was great. Really enlightening experience. Still gathering a lot of information, but it's all greatly relevant. But then sometimes you gotta decide what's a little bit of the, where are you at personally. Outside of that, I do want to give a great kudos to our Clearfield PD for their actions yesterday. Incredibly difficult situation here in our city and on our freeways. And the fact that they just put themselves on the line time and time again. Other than that, like I talked about a little bit last month, mosquito conference is this month. We had to do some spraying. If there's, and I would like to announce to the public, if you need anything for spraying, just keep in mind that our mosquito abatement department is really at its bare minimum now. The season is over for the most part. A lot of the younger kids who would still be kind of working at night and stuff have gone back to school. We have a couple of people who are on mission who are working right now as that intermediary before they leave. Other than that, just great experiences everywhere and nothing else to report.
Are there still mosquitoes?
There were some, so we had on the practice fields mainly.
Yes.
Oh, okay. That's,
Yes,
there you go.
yes,
It's getting a little chilly for mosquitoes.
Yeah,
but,
so I say yes, there's mosquitoes now. It should be okay.
and yeah, I mean, I would echo last night to Devin, who was on site all night, and to our others that were up there, not just our police department, but multiple agencies up there trying to handle a crazy situation. In addition to that, as we discussed in our meeting this morning, our 911 operators are dispatched down here, continuing to deal with other calls coming in, including a myriad of angry residents who were stuck on the street, and calling 911 to complain about being stuck in traffic.
I didn't know you could do that.
And we did miss you last week, Kent, when we had our kind of a recap of the league, and so we've given staff some directions of some things to follow up on, Utopia being one of those, and pursuing Utopia into the city. So, Councilmember Roper, Baldy.
Yes, we won't discuss why I have no hair, because I love my hair. But it did bring up an opportunity to talk to other people and invite them to come to our networking meetings, which I wanted to thank the city for doing, because it was kind of a chance meeting to talk to them about some issues that face our community as well. But I did want to thank Clearfield Police Department for letting me ride along with them the other night. I was able to go well into the night, and it really gives you a new eye view of what they go through on a daily basis when you're down on the ground with them, and especially after yesterday. I was at the fire prevention night and wanted to commend our fire district as well for what was going on. They had their hands everywhere as well, and still were able to host our community to put on a wonderful evening. So thank you very much. Tomorrow I get to go sit on a panel at the State Policy Networking Conference, which includes a lot of people from around the country by invitation there. So just to speak on local government and how we can bring more awareness to our residents and to those around to get involved, to bring more attention to us and what needs to be done. So I'm looking forward to that as well, and that's all I have.
Thanks for representing. Councilmember Phipps.
Just mentioned the Night Out Against Crime. It was cool. Some residents, several residents actually just stopped me and said, that was a great thing. So it's ironically, it works somehow. I don't know, Trevor, what happened, but I'm in a project management meeting at work, and somebody brought up, so what's this night out against crime thing that you guys are doing in Clearfield? I said, how did you find out about that? I read about it, so the word's getting out. I don't know. From Wasatch Integrated update, I'd mentioned before about shredding mattresses and selling them to the cement plant up in Croydon. That is about to happen once we get that going. So that we can let people know, there will start being a surcharge for mattresses that are taken to Wasatch or to the landfill to compensate for the cost of shredding those. But it's a tremendous, I had no idea that there are literally hundreds of mattresses a week that are brought to the landfill, and they're, for several bizarre physics reasons, they're problematic when it comes to a landfill. So it will take a considerable amount of bad product out of the landfill, shred it, and use it for fuel up in the kilns up in Croydon. So it's a great, but it will, I don't want people to be surprised if you're loading up a bunch of old mattresses starting January, February, there will be a surcharge to take those up there.
So Don, that would be a message to you to take to your neighbor. Right now, there's no surcharge if they want to drop off those mattresses, but come January, February, it's going to cost them to get rid of those. And it was a great event last night with the fire district. It was sad because it was the lowest turnout that we've ever had because no one could get here. However, just a reminder to anyone else that's watching it,
No fires, yeah.
yeah, it was a strange night, but no food trucks, no nothing, because the food trucks couldn't get here. We will be down tomorrow night in West Point. So if you missed it last night, come to West Point tomorrow night and take a ride on the fire truck. Staff reports, JJ.
Well, I know it's been mentioned already, but I'd be remiss if I didn't add my kudos and recognition to our police department for the safe resolution to the situation last night. Thank you very much. Also, you've all received invitations to a gala for the Davis County Children's Justice Center. Just let us know if any of you would like to attend, and we can make those arrangements. The open house for the aqua play structure at the Aquatic Center is this Friday evening at 7 o'clock. Is that right, Eric? 7 o'clock? 7:30. 7:30. Okay, thank you. And Bonanza on the 20th, so a week from Saturday. Tim mentioned the community networking luncheon. The next one is a week from today on the 16th. So you're all welcome to attend. It's building a lot of momentum. It's been great. And yesterday I sent out the monthly report. There was a note in there about our hopes for Project Unity. We got word today that we did not make the short list, unfortunately. So we're pretty bummed about that. Lastly, just my appreciation, and I'll speak for Summer as well, that we were able to attend our annual conference for ICMA in Baltimore and had a great learning experience there and networking with our colleagues in city management. So we do appreciate the support from the council to do that. That's all I've got.
Thanks, JJ. Any other staff reports? Yes. Trevor.
Well, Mayor and Council, JJ took half of my stuff, so. No, just with the ribbon cutting for the aquatic playground, that we have some paperwork that we're going to give to you when we get back to work session, kind of detailing some structural agenda type items for how that night will go. The biggest thing that we just need you to think about and give us feedback on is whether you want to cut the ribbon in the water or outside the water. So
it's in the water.
It sounds like part of you say in the water. If I don't hear anything otherwise.
I nominate the mayor.
I'm just saying, if they got me into a commercial in my swimming suit, the rest of you can join me in the pool.
Now, most of it probably will be shin deep, so you probably won't get any.
And I will wear a shirt.
Than that. And you can be fully clothed. You can wear shorts and a tie. So yeah, so that's just the biggest thing that we have is that you just need to let us know what you would like, because that will be how we stage the event that night. So We think it would be a great picture opportunity and Facebook Live opportunity to have you guys in the water next to the play structure as we do it. That will also require staff to also be in the water, so just to let you know, you won't be alone. With our community leader luncheons, that is this next Tuesday, so make sure you come out to that and invite others. We have about 34 RSVP'd right now, and so which is pretty good. That's about average on how we've done in the past. So we'll probably expect around 40, maybe 50, but so it should be good turnout for that. The other thing, I emailed council right before this meeting. We are getting together a committee for our Celebrate Clearfield Week, and we want to invite a council liaison to be a part of that committee. So if you are interested, let either myself or JJ and Summer know, and we can then work out the details on how that will.
Can we have a member of the youth commission also involved?
Yes, we can do that. We might have to adjust our meetings, but we can make that work.
If not, it's
so, or we can also include Amy Archibald on that.
Yeah, that would work as well.
And she can communicate that back. So, I think that was everything that I had. So, thank you.
Thanks, Trevor. Nancy?
Next week, we have a joint meeting with the Planning Commission. We also have some city council items to take care of. The council will start in the executive conference room at 6, and then we'll be in this room at 6:15 for some safety training. And then we'll head down to the multipurpose room with the Planning Commission and handle some items with them. Then we'll be back in city council. So we'll be playing tennis again next week, so be prepared for that. The following week is October 23rd. We do have policy sessions scheduled. We have a work session planned for October 30th. Currently, we have no meeting planned for November 6th, but we would have regular work session and policy session on November 13th. So let's keep you posted as those things progress in their development.
Okay. That is all we have on the agenda tonight. We still need to go back into work session, so I would entertain a motion to adjourn to the city council and our policy session and reconvene in the work session.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we stand adjourned.